Previously, I shared with you our very own SOP or Standard Operating Procedure called the DCS on how we draw support and resistance in an objective manner. So now that we've established that, it's now time for us to overlay a framework that teaches us the most effective ways to buy and the most effective ways to sell or to exit a stock. That means that after we've applied the DCS, it's now time to apply what we call the 3E framework. The 3E framework essentially has two parts. The first part is what we will call the rule of three. What this simply means, and based on experience, we've discovered that price will break out 70 to 80% of the time on the third test of resistance. In the same way, we've discovered that prices will break down 70 to 80% of the time on the third test of support. Now, it's very important to note that for the rule of three to take place, you need to have adequate wind up. What that simply means is that before prices break out mostly on the third test of resistance, you need prices or you need a precedent of prices winding up at support. In the same way that for the rule of three to take place on the breakdown of support on the third test, it's very important to have adequate wind up at your resistance provided by the channel before prices eventually break down. This means that inside bull markets, you will find that prices will break out mostly on the third test of resistance. And this applies especially if we look at corrections or zigzags or flats inside bull markets. While inside bear markets, the opposite is true. That simply means that when you look at corrections, we mean zigzags or flats inside bear markets, you will discover that 70 to 80% of the time, prices will break down mostly on the third test of support. The second part of the 3E framework provides the operational discipline on how we want to enter stocks and how we want to eventually exit them. What this means is that when we use a channel or when we apply the DCS system, the advantage or the beauty of it is that it offers us three main entry points as well as three main exit points. The first major entry point is always the last bounce of support inside the corrective area pattern or inside the zigzag or the flat. This is what we will call E1, which is also what we will label as your aggressive entry. After that, the second major entry will be the breakout of the third test of resistance, which by now you should know 70-80% of the time happens on the third test. Now that is what we will label as E2 or what we will also call your neutral entry. Finally, after that breakout of resistance, which now turns into your support level, what happens is that prices 70-80% of the time will retest that breakout point, or at sometimes will pause right above that breakout point. That is usually a major entry point that we will label as E3, which we also call your conservative entry. All in all, there are three major windows of opportunity when operating ourselves into owning any particular stock, which moving forward we will call E1, E2, E3, or what we'll also be calling our aggressive entry, our neutral entry, and finally, your conservative entry. Now, the 3E framework is also what we use to exit a stock in the most effective manner. In the same way, when exiting, the earliest exit that you can take is the last reaction of that resistance level, which we will call as the E1 exit 1 or the aggressive exit. While in the same way, the second major exit point is the moment where prices break through your support level, which by now you know 70-80% of the time happens on that third test of support. That is what we call our E2 or exit 2, which we also call as our neutral exit. And finally, post breakdown of that support level on the third test, you normally have prices pull back to that breakdown point of support, which now acts as your resistance. Or sometimes you have prices pause after that breakdown before that follow through lower. It is in that pullback to your resistance level, which used to be support, or in that moment where prices are pausing, that we usually call your E3 or your exit 3, or what we also call as your conservative exit. All in all, those are the three major exit points that help us on our day-to-day operations exit stocks that we need to exit in the most effective manner. Moving forward, we will be calling them also E1, E2, E3, which we will also be referring to as our aggressive exit, our neutral exit, and also our conservative exit. And finally, the best way to monetize this 3E framework is to apply these operating principles towards a strategic focus. Now, all traders know that the best path to a consistent and profitable trading account is through what is known as the path of least resistance. Using this system, the path of least resistance, and how we apply these operating principles that we've just learned is when we apply or when we focus on corrections, that means zigzags or flats inside uptrending or bull market environments. And that finalizes our 3E framework. To summarize, we just ran you through our central trading system and framework and the basic principles and tenets that we follow ourselves and for our clients as well. Now, while there are so many other nuances in terms of other strategies, other techniques, and other subsystems to this central trading framework, we'd like to know that we will be discussing them in depth and in detail for our subscribers only at the town hall that we will be having at the end of every month.